Yo, what's going on everyone? It's me, it's Jinsula. I hope you're having a good day and welcome to today's Pokemon Go video. Today we're going to be talking about an upcoming feature in Pokemon Go, and we do not know the full details of this new feature as it hasn't been officially announced, but we can predict that it will be in the game very soon. And I'm of course talking about Dynamax Pokemon as well as GIGANTAMAX Pokemon. This was essentially a new gimmick to Pokemon that was introduced in the Galar region, specifically with the game's Pokemon Sword and Shield, and it was a way for you to power up your Pokemon in a very similar fashion to Mega Evolutions. In the games, it would essentially be a temporary power-up in the middle of battle that would make your Pokemon have much higher stats, grow into a tremendous size, and then also have powered up moves. Now, many players were wondering when this feature would be making its way into Pokemon Go and how exactly it would work. As it turns out, it's going to function very differently from the mainstream games, and that is something that pretty much anyone could have predicted. Because when Niantic introduced Mega Evolutions into Pokemon Go, that worked very differently from how they do in the mainstream games. Now, all that we know is that Niantic teased that Dynamax Pokemon would be coming to Pokemon Go, and this is of course because of the 8th anniversary artwork. And then on top of that, there were different assets for Dynamax Pokemon as well as Gigantamax Pokemon, as well as a new point of interest that were pushed to Pokemon Go's game files. So a lot of players were looking at this and speculating on how exactly it could work. Is Dynamax Pokemon going to be obtainable through raid battles very similar to Mega Evolutions? Is it going to require some sort of resource that's going to power up your Pokemon in some way? And now it seems like we got a lot of concrete info, at least from what we've gathered from datamined information. Now, full disclosure, this is all from datamined info, so take it all with a grain of salt, because Niantic could be doing this completely differently from how they're being described in the game. And of course, that's all going to be confirmed later on down the road when Niantic finally releases this feature. But at the same time, we could take the information that we've gotten from data mining and make a determination on how exactly it could function in Pokemon Go. Everything that I'm about to go over is coming from Pokemon Go Hub. They collected a lot of different information regarding the game files and Dynamax Pokemon, and then they came up with a list of how different functions are going to happen. So when it comes to Dynamax Pokemon, there are going to be separate kinds of Pokemon that you could catch within the game. You're not going to be powering up your Pokemon in the same fashion as Mega Evolutions. These are going to be completely separate Pokemon that you're going to be able to catch in the wild. I think that is incredibly interesting. In recent data mines, there was something called MP in the game code, and it was essentially going to be some sort of resource related to Gigantamax Pokemon as well as Dynamax Pokemon. And now we know exactly what it does. MP stands for max particles, and it essentially is going to be some sort of resource that is related to Dynamax Pokemon. I don't know if it's going to be something that you use to summon Dynamax Pokemon or to engage in a battle against a Gigantamax Pokemon, but essentially it's going to be a brand new resource, and it's not necessarily going to be used to turn your Pokemon into a Dynamax Pokemon. There's also going to be a brand new points of interest within the Pokemon Go game world, and it's called a power spot. This is going to essentially be a special kind of gym that's going to feature Dynamax Pokemon as well as Gigantamax Pokemon. I'm not sure if it's going to be replacing various Pokestops around the world or even gyms, but essentially this is going to be a brand new point of interest that's going to be specific to Dynamax Pokemon. So the game is going to see a huge change once this feature gets added into the game. Now, as I mentioned earlier, Dynamax Pokemon are going to be separate Pokemon that you catch in the wild, but it's going to be within these power spots. I don't know how exactly that's going to work, but at the very least, it looks like Dynamax forms are going to run completely separately from Mega Evolutions. It's going to be a permanent Pokemon that you catch, as opposed to something that you unlock with resources within each Pokemon. Now, Dynamax Pokemon are going to be very specific to certain raid bosses that you would fight at the power spot. I predict that these are going to be Gigantamax Pokemon that are going to be separate Pokemon that you catch, but in order to battle them, you need to use Dynamax Pokemon. It's all quite interesting. I really like the fact that Niantic is going with a completely different system rather than doing a copy and paste of Mega Evolutions. I think that would have been incredibly boring. Now, if you defeat this boss at a power spot, you're going to be able to leave Dynamax Pokemon to help other players defeat that Pokemon. Based on how it's described, I feel like how it's going to work is that you're going to be able to leave a Dynamax Pokemon in your collection at the power spot, much like how you would leave a Pokemon to defend a gym. And then other players could have that Pokemon help them out to defeat the boss that's at that power spot. I think that's all very interesting, and this is definitely going to be something new for players to enjoy. And then on top of that, this also helps out players who live in low population areas as well as rural areas be able to defeat these big Pokemon. I'm assuming they're going to be incredibly difficult considering that Dynamax Pokemon are already powered up versions of regular Pokemon, and the fact that you need to use them to take down these raid bosses is going to be very interesting. Now, unlike defending gyms where you could only leave up to 6 Pokemon, it looks like with these power spots, you could leave up to 20 Pokemon, and it doesn't look like it's going to be team specific. And then finally, leaving a Pokemon at a power spot will earn you candy, so it's going to be incentivized in that way. If you need to power up your Dynamax Pokemon, well, you could leave it at the power spot, and then it's going to allow you to accumulate candy. So yeah, I think this is all very interesting, and I think it's going to be a great way for you to get additional candies for specific Pokemon. Now, of course, with this new mechanic and with all the information that was data mined, we still do not have a lot of complete information. We do not know if power spots are going to be temporarily on the map or if they're going to be taking over certain POIs that are already on the map. We do not know how that's going to work. And then when it comes to max particles, we do not know what the cap on max particles are going to be and how many max particles you'll need in order to battle. And then we do not know how difficult the bosses are going to be at the power spots, and then what the time frame for the bosses are going to be. Are they going to be 30 minutes? Are they going to be 60 minutes? Or maybe are they going to be 24 hours? We really do not know. And then finally, we don't know the time frame for how long you could leave your Pokemon at a power spot and how they could get returned to you. So yeah, there's a lot of interesting stuff happening with Dynamax Pokemon as well as GIGANTAMAX Pokemon. It looks like it's going to be a completely new system, and there's going to be a lot of DNA of current systems, which I'm really glad that they're doing. But yeah, I think this is going to completely change Pokémon GO, and it's definitely going to have a lot of gameplay implications. In general, I'm totally in favor of this, to be honest with you. I like the idea of Dynamax Pokemon being their own thing. You're not just going to be taking Pokemon that already exist in your collection and just powering them up like any other Mega Evolution. I really do think this is a good way to go. It's going to create a lot of longevity for Pokémon GO because now there's a whole set of Pokemon that you now need to collect. And then on top of that, it's going to create a new way for players to coordinate with each other without having to actually go out and physically interact with these other players. You can just leave your Pokemon at a power spot and then you could battle together with your friends without them actually having to be there near with you. There's a lot of cool new dynamics and a lot of cool new interactions that they are now creating with this new system. So I'm really hoping this ends up being a huge hit because I really do think it could be something really good for Pokemon GO, and especially because I feel like when it comes to the game itself, it's been starved of a lot of interesting content. We've essentially had the same exact game for the last several years. So yeah, this is something that's going to be incredibly interesting, and I am looking forward to it, and I'm really curious to see how Niantic is going to pull it off. Dynamax Pokemon is definitely going to be the next big thing in Pokemon GO, and I do predict that a lot of players are going to be incredibly hyped with this new system. But in any case, that's going to be it for this video. Now, let me know your thoughts regarding Dynamax Pokemon as well as GIGANTAMAX Pokemon down below. Is there a particular one that you're looking forward to? How do you feel like the system is going to play out? And do you think it's going to be popular within the Pokemon GO community? Let me know all those thoughts within the comment section down below, and let's have a great discussion. And thank you so much for making it all the way to the end of this discussion video. If you ended up enjoying it, make sure you hit that like button and subscribe if it's your first time here. And don't forget that little notification bell so you can stay up to date on whenever I upload videos. And real quick, let me give a shout out to all of my patrons on Patreon. You make this channel content possible. If you want to support the Jinsula channel, the absolute best way you could do so is, of course, joining my Patreon. And if you choose to do that, you'll you'll get a permanent spot on my in-game Pokemon Go friends list. I also want to interact a lot more with my Patreon subscribers, so if you want to have one-on-one time with me, then make sure you go and check out my Patreon. And if you want to support my channel in a different way and possibly interact with me on a different platform, then make sure you go and follow me on social media. My handle is @Jinsula. I'm on the platforms that you see on screen. Make sure you go over there and give me a follow. And that's going to be it for this video. I'm Jinsula. Be safe, have fun, love yourself, and I'll catch you all later.
진솔아와 함께해